enthusiasts, how you doing? So this little update, I'm going to be changing the fuel filter on PIIIOW, an MPI mini, multi-point injection mini. Pretty sure it's exactly the same process for a single point injection mini. So feel free to have a look. Maybe you can use this as a guide, but I'll talk about some safety advice in a moment, because obviously changing the fuel filter, if you don't do it correctly, it could be potentially very dangerous. So I would recommend following a Haynes manual or the recommended procedure for it. But you can use this as a guide just to watch and see me and see how it's done maybe. Just before I get into the safety advice though, a really good point was brought up. I had a discussion with Dave Jaguar a few weeks ago, and it was we're talking about health and safety related things. And I think Dave used to work on the oil rigs, and obviously they're very health and safety conscious in the job they do. I am in the work I do as well. And one of the biggest bits of advice he gave me, which I'd really like to pass on to you guys as well, and I think Dave mentioned it in his own videos, is when you look in a mirror, the person looking back at you is the person that's responsible for your health and safety. So that means you've got to take responsibility, use your common sense. I think Dave even said on the mirrors in restrooms and toilets on the oil rigs, they even had it printed or marked on the mirror to say you are looking at the health and safety official. Just before we start though, I just need to give you some real sort of safety pointers really. It's pretty common sense stuff, but maybe if you watch a video it's not always quite obvious. But don't do this in a confined space, in a garage. Push it outside the garage, do it outside where there's plenty of fresh air around you, and where you've got movement around the car as well. Make sure you use low voltage lighting, so don't go using lead lamps or anything like that. You'll see me using LED lights, so there's very little chance of sparks or anything like that. It's probably worthwhile disconnecting the battery just in case. Like I say, make sure you're in a well ventilated area, and just have some rags around and maybe some containers just to catch some of the fuel that drips out. Most of all, make sure someone else is around as well. If something starts going wrong, you've got someone you can shout for help or something like that. Today's job, or this morning's job, I'm just going to replace a fuel filter on PIIIOW. I've got a genuine Unipart filter. Original equipment, GFE 7119. I think SPI and MPI fuel filters are different. They changed them over on a certain year, so if you've got an injection mini, just make sure you've got the one for your car, whether it's SPI or MPI. Worth checking first. First thing we've got to do is, there's a rubber pipe out the fuel tank up here. If we just clamp that off with a pair of mole grips, that'll stop any fuel just running out the tank. It will still drip a little bit because there'll be some in the fuel filter, and there will be a bit of residual fuel pressure there. Ideally, I think if you could probably plug into diagnostics, you can let off the fuel pressure with diagnostics, but we haven't got that luxury. So when we just crack off the pipes gently, there'll be a little bit of fuel pressure there, and we'll lose a bit of fuel just dripping out the filter. But we need to clamp off the main pipe out the tank, otherwise it will just continue to leak. You clamp it off. You don't want to do it too tight so you damage the rubber, and just do it enough so it clamps the pipe off. And we'll crack off these unions now, because it'll be easier while the fuel filter's still in its bracket, I think. Got a bit of rag down here just to catch the fuel. But we'll let that drip out now. Be maybe half a cupful there, I think. Right, let's see if that fits. I've got a bit of rubber pipe blanked off the end. It's bound to be the wrong size bit of rubber pipe, isn't it? There we go. An horrible job that was. Just notice there's a rubber O-ring on the end of that fuel pipe there, so when you change it, make sure you don't lose that, keep it clean. Right, so that's both the pipes off both ends. Got to take these nuts off the bottom. That housing should then come off. There we go, so there's a nut on the back here. Just take that out, take the fuel filter out, swap over this union on the end here, and then we can start putting it back together again. Just before you put the fuel filter back in, just make sure they're directional fuel filters, so it'll have an arrow on it, and the arrow should point towards the fuel system, to the fuel injectors, from the fuel tank at the back to the fuel injectors. So this end here is straight out the fuel tank. That goes up to the fuel tank. This end with a rubber hose, which is the one I clamped off, which is why it wouldn't stop leaking actually, so live and you learn. That's the outlet side, that goes towards the fuel injection system, so the arrow should point towards the front of the car. Just another point of this union, pre-fit that union, that's got a rubber O-ring on it as well. And leave this cap on until you've got the pipe in place, just so you don't get any dirt in the filter. And I've just sprayed that with some of that cavity wax just to stop that corroding. And the nut size that end is a 5/8. Bit of a fiddly job, probably the most important bit now. Now we've got it all on, just make sure all the pipes are clipped back in where they should be, nothing's loose, nothing's going to rub. Just start it up now. We can see it's nice and dry, there's no drips there, so just start it up, run it for a bit and check for leaks.